Knight dropped to help himself up the steep slope using his hands. Toes dug into the gravel. Inch by inch, he made it up the steep slope until he came out on the level stretch in front of the mine mouth where the piled beams had made a crisscross pyramid. More than half the pile remained. Most of the men had vanished into the mine. Men wandered around dazed and confused. Knight scrambled to the top of the woodpile and looked around. His heart sank when he saw how the mine mouth was filled with rock and splintered timbers. He jumped down, grabbed a pick, and joined two men at the side of the mine working to dig a new entrance. He worked for what seemed like an eternity. Men came and went, bringing water, offering him jerky to gnaw on as he worked. He took it all without actually seeing anything but the chore ahead.
Get back!
One miner took his arm and steered him away.
But we're almost through to the main shaft.
We're gonna blow our way in. It's a damn sight faster that way. And time counts for them poor bastards caught inside.
Knight stumbled back, eyes watering from dust and his body aching from the exertion. Never had he worked harder physical work. The long hours in the operating theater caused joint and leg pain from standing for days on end. That was more grueling from the point of view of exhaustion, mental and physical. Here, his muscles hurt rather than his joints and his legs. A small man dressed in a bright red shirt and canvas pants with a floppy-brimmed hat pulled low over the eyes pushed past him. A bandana had been pulled up to hide most of his face so only bloodshot blue eyes peered out.
But we should help.
Let Hellfire set the charge. Ain't nobody better at blasting.
What's that?
Knight pointed to a large glass tube in the man's gloved hands. A yellow, viscous fluid sloshed about. It looked as if bubbles formed and popped on the surface of the liquid.
That's nitro.
Nitroglycerin? Well, I don't know much about it, but you can't carry it like that. A shock and it'll explode.
That's what's gonna happen.
The miner turned, dropped to one knee, and covered his head with his arms.
Damn!
Knight mirrored the stance, and a few seconds later, the ground lifted under his feet, then fell away. The world moved like molasses around him, and that included the dirt and rock spit from the new mine shaft they had dug. The shockwave and pelting stone finally shoved him off balance. He fell face down, and the rest of the blast raked along his back and down the hillside.
That did it, boys! We blasted through behind the plug. Let's go get them poor souls out of there.
Knight pushed to his feet and found his legs too shaky to walk. The miner who had been beside him braced him for a moment.
Ready to get to work?
What have we been doing?
He was almost deaf from the explosion. He followed the miner toward the new, raw, gaping hole in the side of the mountain. It had cut just behind the collapsed section of the original mine.
You ain't seen nothing until you put in a full shift underground.
He slapped Knight on the back, staggering him. Wiping dirt from his face, Knight entered the ragged hole, ducking to keep from banging his head against rocks sticking down from the roof. In the main tunnel, he found half a dozen men already at work. Knight lit the candle on a mining helmet and put it on, illuminating the area around him in a dim yellow glow.
Here, take this.
The man thrust a pry bar into Knight's hands.
This way. There's two men caught inside a side stope, not 10 yards from here.
He barely saw the miner who had carried the nitro and had set the charge in the murk. Dust choked everything, forcing him to pull out his handkerchief and fasten it around his nose, making him look like the outlaw he had once been.